The great archives of the consortium floated in the silent dark of space. It was a place of quiet study, not of action. Scholar Nix moved through the glowing halls. His people, the Luminarians, were thinkers. They valued light, knowledge, and peace above all else. For years, he had studied the language of the precursors, the ancient ones who had built the galaxy's first civilizations before vanishing. Today, he had found something wonderful. Before the keepers, the wise leaders of the consortium, he presented his discovery. A complex signal, a harmonic frequency buried in old data. "Esteemed keepers," Nix said, his voice soft, "this is a key. The precursors left it. It is a call for peace. A universal peace call. It is designed to call only the wisest, most enlightened civilizations. Those who have moved beyond war." Keeper Vrail, old and careful, studied the patterns of light. "And you believe we should send it? We have had no contact outside our alliance for 10,000 cycles." "That is the point," Nix said, his eyes bright. "We have grown comfortable. We talk only to ourselves. What if others, who also know only peace, are waiting for a sign? We can find new friends, true philosophical partners." The other keepers agreed. It was a beautiful idea. They did not think of danger. The concept of a hostile, warlike species answering such a gentle call was impossible to them. It was a math problem with only one good answer. They prepared the signal. It was a song of mathematics and gentle light. They aimed it at the quiet, empty void, believing it would travel until it found a kindred spirit. They sent the invitation to a peaceful meeting of minds. The signal raced across the stars. Weeks later, and many light years away, the signal brushed against a lonely human listening post. The post, called Station Themis, was a small dot on the edge of explored space. Its job was to listen for anything unusual. Ensign Park Min-soo was on duty. He was young, with a sharp mind for patterns. An alarm chimed softly on his screen. A signal. Unknown origin. He recorded it and ran it through the translation computers. The first layer was easy. It was a location, a set of coordinates in deep, uncharted space. Very precise. This alone made Min-soo sit up straight. Precise coordinates from an unknown source were never good. He dug deeper. The secondary code within the signal was strange. It wasn't a language. It was a series of harmonic pulses. The computer, trained on 1,000 years of human history, a history full of conflict and distress calls, gave its best guess. A warning label flashed on Min-soo's screen. Match probability, 87%. Structure consistent with prioritized distress/battlefield beacons. Category, urgent response required. Min-soo's blood ran cold. A distress call from an unknown location. Could be a trap, or it could be someone truly in need. Protocol was clear. He sent the data with the computer's analysis directly to Fleet Command. The information traveled up the chain. It reached the desk of Admiral Kim Yuna on the flagship UNS Vanguard. She was leading the Solomon's Hammer Fleet, a group of ships on a long patrol. They were far from Earth, their job to watch and protect human interests in the quiet sectors. She read the report. Coordinates. Probable distress call. The signature didn't match any known human or alien pattern. That made it more dangerous and more urgent. "Thoughts, Commander?" she asked her second-in-command. Lee J. Jay was a cautious man. Could be a trap, a lure. But the signal structure, it's complex. If it is a distress call and we ignore it, we abandon someone to a fate we could prevent. Our mandate is to respond. Yuna nodded. Her fleet was the closest. By the time the message got to Earth and back, weeks would pass. The decision was hers. She looked at the faces on her bridge. They were professionals trained for the worst. If it was a trap, they were ready. If it was real, someone needed help. "Set condition 1 across the fleet," she ordered, her voice calm and clear. "Prepare for immediate jump to these coordinates. Assume a potential hostile environment. We go in ready, but we do not fire unless fired upon. Our primary goal is to assess and, if needed, render assistance." Alarms sounded through the 15 ships of Solomon's Hammer. Sailors rushed to battle stations. Heavy armor plates slid into place over viewports. Energy shields hummed to life. Weapon systems were charged and targeted into empty space, ready to acquire real targets. The great engines spun up, tearing a hole in the fabric of space itself. They were not going to a meeting. They were going to a possible war zone. Back at the consortium outpost, near the coordinates they had sent, there was only happy anticipation. Scholar Nix and Keeper Vrail watched their scanners, hoping to see a gentle, wise ship arrive. Perhaps it would look like a work of art, they thought. The space near the outpoint twisted. It tore open not with a gentle glow, but with a violent, blue-white flash of tortured energy. The consortium sensors screamed in overload. From the rips in reality, human warships arrived. They were all hard angles, gray metal, and glowing engine ports. They moved with sharp, aggressive turns, immediately forming a perfect defensive sphere. Their forward weapons, massive and cold, swept the area, searching for threats. Their shields glowed with a fierce, unwavering power, making the ships look like angry stars. On the bridge of the Vanguard, Admiral Una scanned the tactical display. She saw the alien outpost, a fragile, elegant structure that looked more like a blown glass sculpture than a station. She saw their ships, sleek and unarmed. Her trained eyes saw no immediate weapon locks, no hostile formations. But the distress call had come from here. The battlefield was silent. That was often the most dangerous kind. "Report," she said. "No incoming fire. No targeting locks detected," Jay responded. "But they are scanning us intensely. They are broadcasting on all frequencies. The computer is working on the language." "Hold position," Una ordered. "Keep shields at maximum. Let's see what they say." She stared at the main screen, at the beautiful, fragile alien station. A deep unease settled in her stomach. The pieces did not fit. On the consortium outpost, Scholar Nix felt his body go numb with a terror he had never known. Keeper Vrail could only stare at the monstrous fleet of warships that now blocked the stars. This was not a philosopher's ship. This was an army. What had they done? They had wanted to invite a friend for quiet talk. They had, instead, triggered an alarm. And the alarm had been answered by those who were always prepared for a fight. The silence in the void was heavy. The human fleet hung in space, a perfect sphere of armored ships. Their weapons did not fire, but their readiness was a clear message. Every ship faced outward, protecting the others. Inside the UNS Vanguard, the air was cool and tense. Admiral Una watched the main screen. On it, she saw the alien ships. They were beautiful. They looked like birds or graceful fish, all flowing lines and soft light. They had no visible weapons. They were now moving, but slowly, without purpose. It looked like confusion. "Report on their movements," Una said. Commander Lee J studied his screen. "They are reorganizing. Strange. They are not forming an attack pattern. It looks like they are trying to copy us. See? Ship A is moving to mirror the position of our frigate, Dauntless. Ship B is trying to match the cruiser Resolute." Una's eyes narrowed. In human tactics, mimicking your enemy's formation could be a trick. It could be a way to learn your weaknesses or to prepare a flanking move. "Are they positioning to cut off our escape routes?" "It's possible," Jay said, his voice tense. "Or it could be a gesture. We don't know their rules." Lieutenant Park Min-soo, the communications officer, spoke up from his station. "Admiral, the broadcasts are increasing. There's a torrent of data now. Audio, visual, complex mathematics. The computer is translating the basic concepts. The most common words are welcome, peace, greetings, and friends. They are saying peace while moving their ships into a tactical mirror?" Una asked quietly. "That is what a clever enemy would do. It misdirects. It makes you lower your guard." She had seen it before in the conflicts of Earth's past. Trickery was an old weapon. "Shields at full strength," she ordered. "We do not respond to their hails yet. Let them talk. We will listen." On the consortium outpost, panic had given way to a desperate, logical effort. Keeper Vrail had decided that the human's formation was a form of communication. A ceremony, perhaps, They must answer in kind. All vessels mirror their positions exactly. Vrail instructed over their network. Do not approach. Just show them we understand their arrangement. It must be a ritual of meeting. Scholar Nix watched, his heart aching. He saw the human ships, hard and cold. He saw their own graceful ships trying clumsily to copy the aggressive sphere. Felt wrong. Deep in his soul, it felt like a terrible mistake. But he said nothing on the human frigate UNS Dauntless. Captain Choi Tae-ho watched an alien vessel drift closer, trying to hold a position matching his own. His gunner's voice crackled in his ear. Captain, that ship is entering our outer defensive perimeter. It's now in the optimal zone for a point-blank energy weapon discharge. Should I target it? Tae-ho was a practical man. He saw the same thing his admiral saw. Hold fire. But if it powers any kind of emitter, you burn it out of the sky. Understood. Understood, sir. Back on the Vanguard, Ensign Kong Hannah was studying the sensor data. She was young, with a talent for seeing patterns in numbers that others missed. The alien ships were not just copying their positions. They were copying them perfectly. Commander J, she said, her voice hesitant. May I show you something? J, busy monitoring the tactical readouts, nodded. Hannah sent a data stream to his screen. Look at the positions. Alien Ship 1 is not just near the position of our Dauntless. It is at the exact same distance from their central station as Dauntless is from our Vanguard. Alien Ship 2 matches the Resolute with a positional accuracy of 99.98%. They are not mimicking us for a tactical advantage. They are recreating a picture. It's too perfect. It's mathematical, not military. Jay stared at the numbers. The young ensign had a point. A military mimicry would be looser, focused on angles of attack, not perfect symmetry. This was the work of scholars, not soldiers. He took the finding to Admiral Yuna. She listened, her expression unchanging. So they are either brilliant tacticians playing a very deep game, she said, or they are trying to communicate in the only way they think we understand, by copying us. Which do you believe, Admiral? Jay asked. I believe in evidence. And the evidence is contradictory. Their words say peace. Their ship movements are suspicious. Their technology appears non-threatening. I need a break in the pattern. The break came from a different direction. A small object detached from the main consortium outpost. It was a science probe, a little pod used for collecting dust samples from asteroids. Its engine, old and poorly maintained, sputtered and died. A small containment field inside it failed. To the consortium, it was a minor mechanical fault. To the human fleet sensors, it was a sudden event. A small object had launched from the station. It then emitted a burst of energy, the failing containment field, and was now drifting, silent and powerless, on a slow path that would take it through the human defensive formation. Every alarm in the human fleet did not sound, because the object was too small. But every watchful gunner saw it. On the Dauntless, the gunner's hand hovered over his control. Captain, unidentified small craft on a drift course. It emitted an energy pulse upon launch. It is now dark. Trajectory will bring it within 500 meters of our primary shield generator in 6 minutes. Classifying as a potential stealth munition or scanning device. Captain Choi Tae-ho's mind raced. Protocol was clear. In a potential combat zone, you do not let unknown objects get close to your vital systems. You destroy them. Target the object, he said, his voice tight. Hold for my order to fire. He opened a channel to the Vanguard. Admiral, we have a situation. He explained. On the bridge of the flagship. All eyes turned to Admiral Yuna. This was it. The first test. Possible attack hidden as a failure. If she gave the order to fire, the standoff could turn into a real battle in seconds. Yuna looked at the visual of the probe. It was tiny, crude, and clearly not built for speed or war. She thought of Ensign Hannah's perfect mathematical formations. She thought of the translated words, welcome, peace, dauntless, hold your fire, she said, the words echoing in the quiet bridge. But do not let it touch you. Use a low-power tractor beam. Catch it. Then I want a hazard team to go out there and open it up. Manual inspection. Full containment protocols. It was a risky order. It exposed a ship and a team to potential danger. Captain Tejo acknowledged. "Aye, Admiral." He gave new orders. The consortium watched, horrified, as one of the menacing human warships extended a shimmering beam of energy. It caught the lost probe like a hand catching a falling leaf. Then, a door opened on the warship's side. Small figures in bulky, armored suits jetted out. They moved with quick, efficient grace towards the probe. Scholar Nix gasped. They are capturing it. They will see it is only a science probe. They will see we mean no harm." Keeper Vrail felt a flicker of hope for the first time. The humans had not destroyed. They had chosen to capture, to investigate. It was not a gesture of peace, but it was a gesture of curiosity over violence that end the cold vacuum. Engineer Kim Mina led her team. Her suit sealed her off from the universe. With practiced skill, she used tools to cut a careful hole in the probe's hull. Her lights shone inside. She saw instruments for collecting rock. She saw broken glass from a sample container. She saw a small, dead power cell. No explosives. No weapons. No scanning devices aimed at their ship. She reported back, her voice calm over the radio. "Vanguard, this is Hazard Team 1. Object is confirmed as non-hostile."
Repeat, non hostile.
It's a broken-down science pod. Contains geological sampling equipment only. No threats detected. On the bridge of the Vanguard, Admiral Yuna let out a breath she didn't know she was holding. They had not fired on a helpless, broken machine on the consortium outpost. The leaders saw the human soldiers carefully reseal the probe's hull before jetting back to their ship. They had not taken it. They had simply looked, and then left it. The pattern had finally broken. The first action between the two species was not an attack. It was an act of cautious, armored mercy. The humans had come ready for a battle, but they had chosen, just for a moment, not to fight. The silence that followed was different. It was not the tense quiet of a predator waiting to strike. Now, it was the quiet of two people who have just realized they are speaking different languages. On the bridge of the Vanguard, the mood had shifted. Admiral Yuna stared at the main screen, thinking. Lieutenant Min-Su broke the quiet. "Admiral, their broadcasts have changed. The content is still peaceful, but the format is different. They are sending raw data streams now. Unfiltered. I'm seeing internal schematics of their station. Life support readings. Even visual feeds from inside their command chamber. Put it on screen." Yuna ordered. A window opened on the main display. The image was crystal clear. It showed a room of soft, organic shapes. Several aliens were there. One was tall and slender with skin like polished stone, Keeper Vrail. Another was smaller, with large, luminous eyes that were currently wide with anxiety, Scholar Nix. They were not speaking to the humans. They were speaking to each other, and their translation software was giving the words to Yuna's crew. The signal was clear, Keeper. The precursor mathematics were perfect. It was the universal call. It should have summoned a civilization of enlightened peace. Nix's voice, translated into a calm human tone, did not match the distress on his face. Vrail gestured with a long-fingered hand. "And yet, Scholar, look at them. Their ships are instruments of war. Their first act was to surround us with a wall of guns. Their second was to dissect a probe like a surgeon looking for disease. This is not enlightenment. This is paranoia." Min-Su quickly muted the audio. "Admiral, they are not performing for us. This is a private conversation. They are sending us their internal communications. It's a gesture of total transparency. They are showing us their confusion." Yuna understood. It was a desperate, honest move. They were saying, "See, we are not hiding. We are as bewildered as you are. Keep translating. Record everything," she said. She turned to Commander J. "We have two conflicting stories. There's a call for peaceful friends. Ours. A distress beacon from a battlefield. One of these is wrong. Our job is to find out which, before this misunderstanding becomes a tragedy." On the consortium outpost, Nix was having a realization of his own. He was replaying the human computer's first translation of their call. He had used the consortium's own translation tools, which were built on precursor logic. But what if the humans had different tools? Their history was unknown. Their context was unknown. He called up the raw signal they had sent, and then asked the computer to analyze it not as a precursor artifact, but as a simple signal in the void. He ran it through a basic linguistic matrix, one used for first contacts with simple species. The result made his blood run cold. The harmonic pulses, the beautiful mathematics that the precursors used to symbolize harmonious gathering, were structurally similar to another type of signal. A signal used by ancient, warlike races that died out long before the consortium rose. A signal those dead races used to mark locations of great conflict, as a warning or a rallying cry. The precursors had designed the call to find peaceful species. But the call worked by seeking a specific pattern in a civilization's development. It sought those who had passed through a great filter, a near-total self-destruction, and survived. The consortium had never faced such a filter. They had grown slowly, safely. The humans, Nix realized with dawning horror, clearly had he rushed to Keeper Vrail. Keeper, I understand the error. The call did not summon a peaceful species. It summoned a species that has earned its peace. It summoned survivors. The signal we sent to a history like theirs, it did not sound like an invitation. It must have sounded like a marker for a graveyard, or a cry for help from a war they never forgot. Vrail struggled to understand. So they came here thinking. They came here, Nix finished, his voice trembling, expecting to find a fight, or the ruins of one. Their preparedness is not aggression. It is their natural state. It is the lesson their history burned into their soul. Meanwhile, Admiral Yuna had come to a similar conclusion from the other side. She had summoned her senior officers to the briefing room. Their confusion is real, she stated. They are not acting, so we must revisit our own assumptions. Lieutenant Min-Su, play the original signal analysis from Station Themis. The warning label flashed again. Prioritize distress/battlefield beacons. Ensign Hannah, Yuna said, you have a talent for patterns. Look at this signal. Not as a military analyst, but as a mathematician. What does it feel like? Hannah studied the complex waves of light and sound. She thought of the alien ships trying to perfectly mirror their formation. She thought of precision, not deception. Admiral, she said slowly, it is elegant. The mathematics are profound. It's not a crude SOS. It's a complex piece of art. But if you didn't know it was art and you had a history of being ambushed, the precision of the coordinates could feel like a targeting solution. The complexity could feel like a weapon system activating. Commander J leaned forward. So we both misinterpreted. They sent a beautiful, complex greeting card. Our computers, shaped by our wars, read it as a cry for help from a sophisticated battlefield. We answered that cry. A quiet settled over the room. The weight of the misunderstanding was huge. They had flown a battle fleet into what was meant to be a philosophical salon. Then we have a new mission, Yuna said, her voice firm. We have to explain. We have to tell them we are not here to fight, even though we look ready for one. Lieutenant Min-Su, I want you to compose a message. Use the data they are sending us. Use their own visual feeds. Show them our perspective. Show them Station Themis. Show them our computer's analysis. Show them why we came the way we did. Min-Su nodded. What do we call the event, Admiral? In our history, our reason for being like this. Yuna thought of the scars on Earth, the wars that had nearly ended everything before humanity reached for the stars. She thought of the vigilance that was now in their bones. Call it the filter, she said quietly. Tell them we passed through a great filter of our own making. The call they sent resonates with survivors. That is what answered them. The first true communication from humanity to the consortium was not a simple hello. It was a story. It showed images of ancient Earth battles. It showed the ruins and then the rebuilding. It showed the deep space monitors listening into the dark. It showed the alarm on Ensign Min-Su's face and the solemn readiness of the fleet. It ended with a clear, simple statement, built from the words the consortium had sent. We came in answer to a call we believed was distress. We are prepared for battle so that others may know peace. We did not seek this fight. We seek to understand. When the message reached the consortium outpost, Keeper Vrail and Scholar Nix watched it in stunned silence. They saw the violence in humanity's past. They saw the vigilance it created. The pieces finally fit. They had not summoned philosophers. They had summoned guardians. The galaxy's gentle salon had just been joined by a group of wary, scarred veterans who had mistaken the invitation for a call to arms. And the veterans, realizing their mistake, had chosen to lower their guns and tell their story instead. A new kind of quiet filled the bridge of the vanguard. The human fleet's weapons were still powered, but the targeting systems were no longer actively painting the alien ships. The shields remained up, a glowing wall of blue energy, but they were no longer seen as the first move in a fight. They were now a statement: we are careful. We are listening. The consortium's response to the human story was immediate. Their earlier chaotic broadcasts stopped. A single, clear frequency opened. The image of Keeper Vrail appeared on the main screen. His large, dark eyes held a depth of sadness and understanding. Admiral Una stood before her own camera. Behind her was the ordered calm of her warship's bridge. The contrast was stark. Organic warmth against hard-edged functionality. "We have seen your message, Admiral Kim Una." Vrail's translated voice was soft. "We have seen your filter. We have no such history. Our growth was slow. We forgot the shape of war so long ago that it is only a story. We called for those who knew peace. We did not understand that the deepest peace is often the one built on the memory of its opposite." Una gave a single, slow nod. "Understanding is our goal now, Keeper. But understanding does not mean forgetting. My fleet is on guard because my people's memory is long. The call you sent was read by our systems as a cry for help. We are built to answer such cries. It is why we exist out here." On the consortium outpost, Scholar Nix spoke from beside Vrail, his voice eager. "The error was in the translation. Your history, your context, changed the meaning of the signal. You did not come as invaders. You came as rescuers. To a rescue that was not needed." "Or," said Commander J from his station, his voice picked up by the microphone, "to a battle that was not happening. It amounts to the same thing for us. We are configured to respond to threats. Our mistake was in identifying you as one." The conversation continued, halting and careful. The humans explained their rules of engagement, their constant patrols. The consortium explained their philosophy of total openness, their lack of any military concepts. They shared more data about the precursors and their great filter theory. "It is a test," Nix explained, his enthusiasm for knowledge breaking through his fear. "The precursors believed a species could only achieve true stability, true wisdom, after facing the possibility of its own end and choosing to continue. Your species chose to continue. That is what the call detected. Not your peace, but the strength you forged in the fire that tried to burn you." Admiral Una listened, her face impassive. Inside, the words settled with a heavy truth. They were not the enlightened philosophers the aliens had sought. They were the survivors, the ones who cleaned up after the disaster. They were the ones who stood watch so others could sleep. "So you called for gardeners," Una said, her voice low and clear. "And you got soldiers. You wanted to talk about the beauty of the forest. We arrived worried about a fire. It seems we are poorly equipped for your conversation." Keeper Vrail made a gentle, flowing gesture with his hand.
No.
"You misunderstand again, but in a different direction. You are perfectly equipped for our reality, not our dream. We look at the stars and see beauty. You look at the same stars and see distance, danger, and the need for a safe path. Who is more prepared for the truth of the universe?" The question hung in the air. It was not an accusation. It was a genuine, philosophical inquiry. Before Una could form an answer, a sharp alarm cut through the Vanguard's bridge. It was not a battle alarm. It was a priority sensor alert. "Report," Una said, turning from the screen. Ensign Hannah was already analyzing the data. "Long-range scanners, Admiral. It's not the consortium. It's a natural event, a massive gamma-ray burst, originating from a dying star in a neighboring system. The energy wave is expanding. Jay called up the trajectory plot. His face went pale. Admiral, the wave, its path. It will pass through the system in approximately 48 hours. The outpost, it's directly in the path. Their shields are designed for microdebris and solar radiation. They are not rated for a burst of this magnitude. It will scour the station clean. The information was shared instantly with the consortium. On the screen, Keeper Vrail and Scholar Nix froze. Their own sensors confirmed it. Panic, pure and simple, broke out in their command chamber. They had no protocol for this. They had no way to move the station. They had no shields that could withstand such force. They were architects and poets facing an astronomical hurricane. Vrail looked back at Yuna's image, despair in his eyes. It seems the universe has its own filters, he said, the translation carrying a profound weight. Yuna did not hesitate. She did not confer with her officers. The mission had just changed. Keeper Vrail, she said, her voice assuming the calm, commanding tone of someone who has trained for emergencies her whole life. You have a problem. We have a solution. It is what we are built for. She turned to her crew. All ships, condition change. New priority. Planetary Defense Protocol Gamma. Retask all shield generators for wide area dispersion. We need to create an energy umbrella large enough to cover that outpost. Commander J, plot the optimal formation. We will interpose our fleet between the burst and their station. The human fleet, which had hung motionless in a defensive sphere, suddenly erupted into activity. But this time it was not for war. Ships moved with the same precise urgency, but now they were aligning themselves in a tight, layered wall. Their powerful rear engines flared as they shifted position. Their shield projectors began to hum at a new, powerful frequency, designed to merge and create a single massive barrier. The consortium watched, stunned, as the wall of warships reformed into a shelter. The very weapons that had terrified them were now powering the systems that might save them. Engineer Kim Mina's voice came over the fleet channel from the Dauntless. Admiral, merging shields at this scale will drain our reactors in less than 6 hours under that kind of radiation stress. We need to anchor the resonance or the shield will shatter. Yuna looked back at the screen, at the terrified alien scholars. Scholar Nix, you understand harmonics. You read precursor mathematics. Our engineer needs to talk to you. Right now. You need to teach us how to make our shield sing. We have the strength. You have the melody. Together we can make it hold. The standoff was over. A new collaboration had begun. The humans, prepared for a battle that didn't exist, had just found a real enemy to fight. And the consortium, who had wanted peaceful friends, now saw the incredible, terrifying value of friends who knew how to stand against the storm. The harmony that filled the space between the human and consortium computers was not a gentle song. It was a roar. Engineer Kim Mina listened to the stream of data from Scholar Nix, her fingers flying over her console. On her screen, complex precursor waveforms merged with the brute force algorithms of human shield technology. Your shield is a wall. Nix's voice came through, excited despite the fear. It pushes. It resists. But a pure wall will crack under sustained force. The energy must be guided, flowed, and dispersed, like water around a stone.
Mina understod.
So we don't just block it, we turn it. We make our shield into a slope, not a flat wall. Use the burst's own energy to slide it around us. Exactly, Nix said. I am sending the modulation sequence. You must align your projectors to this harmonic pattern. On the bridge of the Vanguard, Admiral Yuna watched the tactical display. Her ships were now in position, a tight-knit wall of gray metal between the fragile outpost and the oncoming wave of invisible death. The countdown ticked away. All ships report shield modulation in sync with the consortium pattern, Commander J announced. The merge is holding. For now, the new shield was not a solid blue wall anymore. It shimmered with rippling bands of gold and silver, a visible representation of the alien mathematics weaved into human power. It looked alive. The gamma ray burst arrived. It did not come with sound or light. It was a silent, deadly tide of radiation that would have stripped the station bare in moments. The human sensors screamed as the energy front slammed into the merged shield. The entire fleet shuddered. Lights flickered on the Dauntless. On the Vanguard, alarms blared as power levels dipped sharply.
Mina.
Report. Captain Choi Tae-ho yelled over the comms from his ship. Hold the pattern. Mina shouted back, her voice strained. She watched her screens as the harmonic graph spiked wildly. The alien math was working, guiding the incredible energy, but the human reactors were struggling to keep up. We're bleeding power. Reactor 1 is overheating. Admiral Yuna gripped the railing on her bridge. Divert all non-essential power to the shield grid. Life support to minimum. Even weapons power. Do it now. Across the fleet, systems went dark. War rooms became empty. Lights dimmed. The only things running at full power were the engines holding them in place and the shield projectors singing their desperate, collaborative song. On the consortium outpost, they could only watch. Their sensors showed the immense wave of radiation bending and flowing around the shimmering shield umbrella, like a river parting around a mighty rock. The rock was holding, but it was eroding. Scholar Nix saw the human power readings plummeting on his shared screen. They are sacrificing their own ship integrity for us, he whispered to Keeper Vrail. Vrail watched the human fleet, dark now except for the brilliant, laboring glow of their engines and shields. They had come prepared for a battle, and they had found one, not against a foe of flesh and metal, but against the mindless violence of the cosmos itself. They are not just survivors, Vrail said, a new understanding dawning. They are protectors. It is the same instinct, turned outward. The minutes stretched like hours. The gamma wave continued its relentless push. A console on the Dauntless exploded in sparks. Engineer Mina flinched but didn't move from her station. We're losing harmonic stability in Sector 4. I need to manually adjust the projector array. Negative, Captain Tae-ho ordered. The radiation levels outside will kill you in seconds. The shield fails in that sector. The cascade collapse will doom the outpost and then us.
Mina argued.
There was no time for debate. She grabbed a toolkit and a heavy emergency suit. In the silent, tense command of the Vanguard, they watched her biosignal move through the ship towards an external hatch. Captain Tae-ho, what is she doing? Yuna's voice was sharp. Her job, Admiral, Tae-ho replied, his voice full of grim pride. Mina stepped into the airlock. The outer door opened to a hellish view. The space around the shield shimmered with a sickly, lethal light. Her suit alarms whined immediately. She pushed forward, magnetic boots clamping to the hull, and crawled towards the faltering projector. Her world shrank to her hands, the tools, and the equations in her helmet display. Guided by Nix's constant, calm stream of instructions from light years away, she adjusted the emitter nodes by hand. The radiation battered her suit. Warning lights turned from yellow to red. Got it? She gasped, finishing the final adjustment. On the screens, the wavering section of the shield solidified, the golden harmonics snapping back into place. The shield held. The wave passed. As suddenly as it had hit, the crushing pressure was gone. The sensors showed clear space. The deadly tide had flowed past them, leaving the sheltered pocket of space and the consortium outpost. Unharmed. On the outpost, there was a moment of pure, disbelieving silence, followed by a surge of relief so powerful it felt like a physical wave. On the human ships, lights slowly came back up. The shield shimmered and faded away. The fleet hung in space, dark, scorched, and quiet. They had won. Engineer Mina was pulled back inside the Dauntless. Her suit was heavily irradiated, but she was alive. The medical team rushed her away. Admiral Yuna let out a long, slow breath. She looked at the main screen, where Keeper Vrail's image had returned. His expression was one of awe and profound gratitude. Admiral Yuna, Vrail said, his voice thick, you saved us. You had no reason to, after our mistake brought you here. You could have left. Yuna straightened her uniform. She looked tired, but her eyes were clear. You were in distress. That was the one thing we understood for certain. It is the reason we came. We are configured to respond. Today, the response was for a different kind of fight. She turned to Commander J. Send a signal to Earth. Use the standard first contact protocols now. Tell them, first contact established. The neighborhood is quiet, but it needs a good guard dog. And add, we are staying for a while. Jay allowed himself a small smile. Yes, Admiral. Scholar Nix appeared beside Vrail. Admiral, your engineer, Mina? Is she? She will recover, Yuna said. She did her duty, as did you, Scholar. Your knowledge was the key. You gave us the song. We provided the voice. The two groups looked at each other across the void. The humans in their functional, damaged warships. The consortium in their beautiful, fragile station. They were nothing alike. They had wanted nothing alike. But they had found something together. The universe was not just a salon for gentle conversation. It was also a place of sudden, violent storms. You needed those who knew how to talk. And you needed those who knew how to stand and hold the line. Admiral Yuna gave a final, respectful nod to the screen. We will remain nearby for repairs and further discussion. Keeper Vrail. Our door is open. As the connection closed, she looked out the viewport at the stars. They were the same stars as before, but now, they did not just represent potential threats or lonely distances. They represented a new possibility. They had answered a call, and in doing so, they had found not a war, but a purpose. The survivors had become guardians, and the galaxy, for a little while, felt a little safer. The silence after the storm was a busy one. The human fleet, scorched and depleted, floated in a loose protective formation around the consortium outpost. Repair teams in heavy suits moved across the hulls like tiny, determined insects. Admiral Yuna allowed herself 1 hour of rest in her small cabin. She slept deeply, and when she awoke, the weight of the first contact was still there, but it had changed shape. It was no longer the sharp fear of a misunderstanding. It was the steady pressure of a new responsibility. On the consortium outpost, the mood was one of exhausted celebration. They were alive, but their near destruction had shattered an old way of thinking. Keeper Vrail gathered the senior members. Scholar Nix was there, his large eyes still wide with the wonder of what had happened. We called for philosophers, Vrail said, his voice echoing softly in the chamber. We called for those who had mastered peace. But the universe, it seems, has a different definition of mastery. The humans did not bring us theories of harmony. They brought us harmony itself, forged from raw power and disciplined mercy. They saved us with the very tools we feared. Nix nodded eagerly. Their peace is not a passive state, Keeper. It is an active one. It is a wall they maintain, a watch they keep. They passed through their great filter, and their answer was not to hide from the fire, but to become firefighters for others. A costly role, another keeper said. Look at their ships. They burned their own power, risked their own lives, for strangers who accidentally summoned them. That is the point, Vrail replied. Their instinct is to protect, even from a mistake. We must learn from this. Our peaceful existence was a gift of a quiet universe. Theirs is a hard-earned achievement. We invited them. We owe them more than thanks. We owe them understanding. Meanwhile, on the UNS Dauntless, engineer Kim Mina lay in the medical bay. Her body was clear of radiation, thanks to her suit and rapid treatment, but she was weak. Captain Choi Taeho visited her, bringing a report. The shield harmonic data you and that little scholar cooked up, Taeho said, trying to sound gruff. Fleet engineering wants it all. They say it could revolutionize our deflector technology. Make our shields twice as strong for the same power.
Mina smiled viklu.
Good. Tell them to send a thank you note to Scholar Nix. She paused. Is he okay? He sounded so scared during it all. He's fine. They all are. Because of you and every crew member on the line. Taeho looked at her, his expression softening. You went out there. That was beyond the call, Mina. Someone had to hold the rock steady, she said simply, and closed her eyes to sleep. Admiral Yuna's next meeting with Keeper Vrail was not a crisis conference. It was a planning session. They met via hologram, but the setting was different. Yuna sat in her briefing room. Vrail sat in a quiet garden room on the outpost, with living plants growing on the walls. "We will need time for repairs," Yuna stated. "Two of my ships have major reactor fatigue. We are not going anywhere soon. This is your location for as long as you require," Vrail said. "But I must ask, Admiral, what happens after? Your message to your home said you were staying for a while. What does that mean?" Yuna leaned forward, her hands clasped on the table. "It means we have stumbled onto a truth. Your consortium is vast, peaceful, and undefended. You look at the stars and see beauty. We have learned to also see danger. Our history compels us to. You wish to be our guardians?" Vrail asked, not with fear, but with curiosity. "No," Yuna said firmly. "Guardianship implies you are children. You are not. You are a wise and ancient culture. But even wise cultures can be blindsided by a gamma ray burst, or by a signal they do not fully understand. We wish to be your neighbors, the kind of neighbor who has a strong fence, good tools, and who comes over to help when the roof is leaking. Not to take over the house, to help fix it." Vrail was silent for a long moment, contemplating the human metaphor. "A neighbor with a formidable fence," he repeated. "We have never had such a neighbor." "Then perhaps it is time," Yuna said. "We can start small. An exchange. Scholar Nix and a few of your thinkers can visit our ships. We will share our shield harmonics technology with you, so you can strengthen your own stations. In return, you can share with us your precursor archives, your understanding of the galaxy's history. We are good at looking for threats. You are good at understanding the universe. Together, we might see it more completely." The offer was not what the consortium had ever imagined. It was not a merger. It was a partnership between two fundamentally different kinds of minds. The first exchange was awkward. Scholar Nix and two other consortium scientists, floating in their delicate environmental bubbles, were brought aboard the Vanguard. They marveled at the sheer, grim functionality of it all. The exposed cabling, the reinforced doors, the constant low hum of powerful systems. Humans, in their simple uniforms, watched the aliens with wary respect. Lieutenant Minsu was their guide. He showed them the communications array that had misinterpreted their call. He showed them, without shame, the history logs of Earth's wars. "This is why," he said quietly. "This is why we are the way we are." Nix looked at the images of ancient ruins and then at the strong, clean decks of the starship. "You carry the scars on the inside," Nix observed. "You built all of this so the scars would not have to be on the outside anymore. It is not paranoia. It is profound responsibility." Later, on the outpost, human engineers in practical work clothes were shown the precursor archives. They saw the beautiful, complex math that described the fundamental forces. Ensign Kong Hanna, who loved patterns, stared at it with a blazing intensity. This could help us predict stellar flares months in advance. It could make navigation safer for everyone. It was the beginning, not of a perfect friendship, but of a useful alliance. The humans, with their fleet of formidable fences, would remain. They would patrol the edges of consortium space not as rulers, but as the first line of warning. The consortium would share its deep knowledge, helping to guide that power with wisdom. Admiral Yuna stood once more on her bridge, watching the outpost glitter like a delicate jewel. Commander J joined her. "A strange turn of events, Admiral," he said. "We came ready for a battle no one was fighting. We found a different one," Yuna replied, "and we'll keep finding them. Not all enemies are alive, J. Some are like the void or radiation or old, tragic misunderstandings. Our job is to stand against those things too." She turned from the viewport. "Set a regular patrol schedule. Open a permanent communications link with the keepers. We're not just visiting anymore. We're staying. Let's get to work." The galaxy had not changed, but in one small corner of it, a new light was now shining. It was not the gentle glow of the consortium. It was the steady, unwavering beam of a lighthouse, built by survivors, maintained by guardians, shining for the benefit of all who sailed in the dark. The arrangement became known quietly as the Watch. For 3 standard cycles, the human fleet remained at the edge of consortium space. They were like a stone dropped into a still pond. The ripples spread slowly, changing everything they touched. Admiral Yuna's fleet was no longer a sudden, terrifying shock. It was a known presence. A permanent relay station was built, a simple block of human metal and ceramic docked gently with the elegant curves of the consortium outpost. They called it Beacon 1. It was a place for shared work. Inside Beacon 1, the 2 cultures met in the middle. The air was a mix of cool, recycled human atmosphere and the slightly sweeter, floral scent the consortium preferred. The walls were a blend of smooth human panels and living consortium vine that helped process the air. Scholar Nix spent most of his days there now. His counterpart was often Ensign Kong Hannah. She had been moved from censor duty to a new role, liaison analyst. Her job was to take the vast, beautiful complexity of precursor math and find the practical uses in it. Today, they were looking at star charts. Not the human ones, which marked gravity wells and radiation hazards, but the consortium ones, which mapped historical stellar harmonies and energy flows. This region, Hannah said, pointing to a spiral arm on the screen. Your charts show a dissonance zone from a supernova 8,000 years ago. Our charts show the same region as having high levels of subspace interference and unstable wormhole echoes. Nix pulsed with gentle light, his version of a nod. The precursors saw the universe as a symphony. A supernova is a violent chord. The dissonance lingers in the fabric of space. That lingering dissonance, Hannah said, her eyes bright, rips our navigation computers apart if we try to jump through it. We thought it was random noise. You're telling us it's a predictable pattern. We can chart a safe path through the music. It was a small revelation, but small revelations added up. Human ships, using these new harmonic charts, could travel faster and safer. In return, the humans gave the consortium the plans for the merged shield technology. Consortium engineers, with their elegant minds, quickly improved the efficiency, making it use less power. It was sent back to human shipyards. Both sides grew stronger. But not everyone in the vast consortium was pleased. The news of the humans, of the battle fleet that had come and stayed, traveled to the core worlds. A delegation arrived at the outpost. They were called the Harmonists. They believed in pure, undisturbed peace. Their leader, a tall being named Alara, met with Keeper Vrail. Her voice was like chimes, but the tone was sharp. You have allowed warriors to nest on our doorstep, Vrail. You have let their philosophy of fear taint our peace. They see danger in the stars. This vision will become a sickness that spreads to us. Vrail was older now and steadier. He had seen a gamma ray burst held at bay by human courage. They do not see danger where there is none, Alara. They saw a danger we were blind to and they acted. Is it a sickness to fix a leaking hull before the ship sinks? They are the tools we did not know we needed. They are a tool that will one day cut us, Alara insisted. The argument reached Admiral Yuna. She listened to Vrail's summary in her quarters on the Vanguard. Commander Jay was with her. Political opposition, Jay said. It was inevitable. They see us as a corrupting influence. Yuna watched a feed from Beacon 1, where human and consortium children, the consortium's young were small, glowing orbs, were exchanging simple pictures. The human kids drew ships and stars. The consortium young drew patterns of light. They fear what we represent, Yuna said. The memory of conflict. They have built a paradise on forgetting. We are a living reminder that the universe does not forget. She made a decision. Invite Alara and her delegation here. To the Vanguard. Show them everything. It was a risk, but hiding had never been their way. Alara and 2 others came aboard. They walked through the stark, gray corridors, their graceful forms seeming out of place. Yuna met them in the main hangar bay. She did not bring them to a comfortable meeting room. She brought them to the heart of the ship's purpose. Around them, crews worked on a damaged fighter craft. The air smelled of oil and ozone. The sound of welding tools and shouted orders echoed. "This is not a place of philosophy, honored Alara," Una said, raising her voice over the din. "This is a place of work. We work to maintain, to repair, to be ready." Alara looked disturbed. "It is loud. It is harsh." "Yes," Una agreed. "Peace is quiet. Peace is soft. But the defense of peace is often loud and harsh. You preserved your peace by being far from trouble. We preserve peace by standing between trouble and those who cannot stand against it." She led them to the shield control room. Engineer Kim Mina was there, now fully recovered and in charge of the department. On the main screen was a real-time harmonic display of the space around the outpost, blending human and precursor data. "This," Una said, "is the gift of your knowledge and our strength. We can now see a solar flare forming 3 days before it erupts. We can detect the gravity ripple of a wandering black hole a year before it gets close. We are not just a shield. We are a pair of eyes. Your knowledge gives us better sight. Our readiness acts on what we see." Alara watched the screen. She saw the gentle, glowing patterns of consortium harmonics. She saw the solid, pulsing human data layers over them. They fit together. They made something stronger and more complete. "You are not trying to make us like you," Alara observed, her chime-like voice softer. "We would not wish our history on anyone," Una said, her voice firm but quiet. "We only wish to ensure that no one else has to live it again. Not you. Not anyone. If that means we are the loud, harsh ones on the frontier so you can have your quiet gardens, then that is our role." The delegation returned to the outpost. They did not give their full support, but the rigid disapproval was gone from Alara's face, replaced by thoughtful consideration. That evening, Admiral Una stood on the observation deck of Beacon 1. Scholar Nix joined her, floating gently beside her. They looked out at the human fleet, lights glowing against the dark, and the beautiful, fragile outpost. "You have changed us, Admiral," Nix said. "You have not changed our songs, but you have taught us to listen for the wrong notes in the symphony. It is a valuable lesson." Una nodded. "And you have changed us, Scholar. You have shown us that the symphony exists. We were only listening for the silence that comes before an attack." She allowed herself a small, tired smile. "We are not the neighbors you wanted, but I hope we are the neighbors you need." In the quiet dark, the human ships continued their watch. Their weapons were quiet. Their shields were at rest, but they were ready. They were the fence at the edge of the garden, the lighthouse on the quiet shore. They had come by accident, summoned for a battle that wasn't there. And in staying, they had found their true purpose: to ensure that for their new, gentle neighbors, a battle would never come.